in her previous jobs, she was in charge of looking around the world which ones were the best schools. In that way, she was traveling all over the different places, and then she found one school that she loved, and then basically she created a new organization to really figure out how to these findings of new schools and these findings of the way that this school was operating, really how to pass it to a lot of different schools around the world and principally in the US. That's why Kinichi School is following the model of Erika Twani in personalization of learning one-to-one. And it's going to be impressive, everything that she's going to share with us. But this session specifically, we're going to speak about artificial intelligence in the school and how can we use it. With that, welcome, Erika. Nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Eric. Thank you very much. So I'm going to share a couple of things with you here today. Let's get this started, because I know you want to go straight to the meat, right? Can you see my screen? Yes? All right. So open your chat because I want a lot of interaction here. I want to hear from you, okay? And Ali will be helping us with that. So let's get started. Our session today is how to increase your productivity by tenfold and get your students to do the same. So I'm the author of Becoming Einstein's Teacher, which is has a translation to Portuguese and Spanish. So if you go to Amazon, you're going to see that. And it incorporates a lot of what we're going to talk about here today. Okay. So before we even get started, it's very important that you understand this.
1 minute.
This session is for you to discover how to increase your productivity by using AI. It's to identify the skills necessary for your students to use AI effectively and to use 6 simple steps to develop students' learning skills. And this session is not. It's another session to learn what generative AI is. It's to learn how to build prompts or just to be impressed with great tech or leave with no clue how to get started. So you have the chance right now to leave the session if this session is not for you. But if you are on the left side, this session is for you, okay? And different from what you usually tell your students in the classroom, use your phone. I want everybody to have their phones on. When you use it, make sure that you use all of these hashtags and identifiers, okay? Moving on. So when we think about AI in education, right, we always thought about this bunch of robots with extremely intelligence that can teach students and, you know, make the classroom fun and is capable to replicate everything that a teacher does today in the classroom. But when we see what's going on today, the reality is very different. We see the powerful generative AI, which is an AI that we can talk and exchange ideas and ask questions, and the unimaginable tasks that we can do today that only humans could do in the past. So we talked specifically about ChatGPT because it was the transformative tool that created this turning point in everything we know about AI. So just for you to have an idea, the time it took to reach 1 million users today, Netflix took 3.5 years, Airbnb 2.5 years, Facebook 10 months, Spotify 5 months, and Instagram 2.5 months, an iPhone 74 days, and ChatGPT only 5 days. So it's unbelievable the speed of adoption when something is really happening and something is really good and easy to use as ChatGPT. So I'm not assuming that everybody already knows how to use it. So how about this? Let's give it a try, shall we? Yes? Huh? All right. So let's give it a try. I'm gonna stop sharing this, and I'm gonna share again. I have two screens, so it's very interesting the way that I'm doing things here. All right, can you see the screen? That's ChatGPT. All right, so pretty much it's a conversational tool, right? In terms of education, it's very good and useful for us to create lessons, to ask for advice, and ask things to that we don't know how to do it. For example, I was in a conference last year, and there was a panel discussing about ChatGPT, you know, the experts discussing about it. And one teacher from the audience said, "Excuse me, how can I explain to my fifth graders what ChatGPT is all about?" And then one of the panelists started talking, "Oh, you got to explain this and you got to explain that." And I was thinking like to myself, why don't you just ask ChatGPT? You know, it's so much simpler. So you can ask anything you want. And depending on the prompt, I prepared a prompt here for us to test today. Act as Albert Einstein and explain the theory of relativity for a 10-year-old in one paragraph. Then create a rap song so the 10-year-old can remember the concept you explained. After that, create a picture of Albert Einstein and a 10-year-old girl laughing together. The girl is wearing a red cape. So let's see what ChatGPT comes up with. So imagine you're sitting in a super fast spaceship traveling through space. Now, if you were to throw a ball inside the spaceship, you would see it moving normally, just like it would. So you see that in one paragraph and explaining in using the words that a 10-year-old would understand, ChatGPT explains the concept, right? So now it is creating a rap, or it's called relativity rap. Yo, listen up. Let me tell you a tale about the space and time. So you see that you can use all of that so fast instead of having to have a talent of creating a song and being able to have all this experience. To Ale, if you can mute our participants, that'd be great. And you have all of that at your fingertips. Look at Albert Einstein with the girl using the red cape, right? So it's so simple and easy, and it can speed up the process of creation for us in such a way that we're crazy if we do not use it, right? But now comes the question. Let me go back to the other presentation. Can you see my screen back? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I don't blame anybody that asks those questions, because yes, will teachers be replaced? Will teachers' role change? Should students use AI? What if AI is a tool for fraud and cheating? So all those questions are extremely important for us, and we must recognize that they exist, right? So I want to acknowledge that you have the right to be skeptical. Is it a fad, or is here to stay? Should we just close one eye and wait until it's gone, or should we embrace it? Well, a couple of schools, decided to embrace it. A couple of schools decided not to embrace it. So we see Australian universities banning ChatGPT, New York public schools banning ChatGPT, but schools like this one embracing ChatGPT. So for the schools that refrain from giving new technologies a learning purpose, students will use them in ways not necessarily designed to learn. Now, what we need to understand is this: productivity. So remember, the title of this masterclass is how to increase our productivity, right? We saw the capabilities. We saw how fast we can improve whatever questions we have. So productivity of workers, of knowledge workers, in terms of coding, for example, diminished by 55% when I use tools like AI. The creation of images, as you saw that, cost from $150 to 8 cents, and the time from 5 hours to less than a minute. Well, Erica, this is for coding and designers. How about teachers? Well, teachers' productivity increment by 33%. Let me ask you this, and you write in the chat there. What would you do with an extra 33% of your time? 1/3 of your time that you have today. So remember that all those tools that you used in the past, that were fads, they created more admin work for teachers, right? Because you have to input data. But generative AI is different because it makes you more productive. It makes you work faster by increasing your productivity. And you have more time to consider new pedagogical strategies. You have time to analyze data. You have to spend more time with your family. You can finally go to the gym, right? So how do we get started? First, we need to understand something very, very important. Generative AI is all about the prompt. So it's all about the text that you just saw that I entered there, right? But creating a prompt is very challenging. So the first thing is that you need to make sure that you have a precise prompt. It's critical. And writing effective prompts requires significant effort. So it's practice over and over and over again. Minor changes. Let's say I don't want a 10-year-old. I want an 18-year-old. That's a complete different prompt and with a complete different answer, right? The order of the prompt can significantly impact the accuracy. So it's very important that we have the right prompt where you test different orders to make sure that you have the answer that you're looking for. The same prompt can give you different results depending on the AI that you're using. It's super interesting. And while many prompts techniques have been developed, listen to this. There's little theoretical understanding of why any particular technique is suited to any particular task. So it's even more challenging for us to embrace and understand that. And of course, end users of prompt-based apps struggle more than the prompt engineers to formulate effective prompts. Now, the other thing that we need to understand is this. Generative AI evolves at a very fast pace and is so fast that nearly 4 in 5 junior employees say they can't keep up with how fast all of these apps are developing. And leaders say, a lot of leaders know they need their employee base to understand AI, but no one knows how to teach them. And AI is moving faster than real life. Now, the other research that we found is that what kind of skills are required from humans in terms of being prepared to use all those apps, right? There's things we can control and things we cannot control. What we cannot control is the fast pace that AI is developing. What we can control is the human skills we develop with our students to ensure they're prepared to embrace any challenge that they foresee in the future or tomorrow, right? So, in my humble opinion, I do believe that the most relevant skills to get started, so if you want to get started as an educator, you got to make sure that you develop those 3 skills with your students. First of all, inquiry, communication, the ability to express oneself, the ability to develop and refine your prompt. That's the first interaction. The second one is critical thinking, which is the ability to analyze the result of your prompt, right? We are not just accepting as it is. We cannot do that. But what we can do is take that information and look with our teaching eyes, with our learning eyes, and ensure that this is good for our students and make whatever adjustments are necessary to ensure that it will be good for them. And finally, decision-making, the ability to decide whether the result is acceptable or not and what to do with it, right? We created a song. We created a 1 paragraph of explanation of what the theory of relativity is. Now what we're going to do with it? How are we going to use it? That's decision making. Now, what we do want and what we do need is, for us as educators, is a pedagogy that uses artificial intelligence to augment our biological intelligence. This is very, very important for us to understand. AI does not come to dominate the world. AI comes to enhance our capabilities as humans, enhance our biological intelligence. So in a world of user-generated content, what we need is a user-generated education. So this is a very, very interesting study that you can see. And if you search user-generated education, you're going to get to the website of Jackie Garnstein, and you're going to see the explanation of what this is all about. Yes, we have a lot of schools that need basic survival. We need kids to be fed. We need, safety in the households. We need all of emotional safety. But what we have to aim at is ensuring that we're developing students' learning autonomy. And why is that so important? Because they cannot stop learning. Once they are autonomous learners, they will never stop learning. And if you're really bored with your 33% of time, you can start learning how artificial intelligence learns, and is exactly that. Artificial intelligence is an autonomous learner. Erika, how come? How does that work? Well, it works the following way. Tesla, everybody knows what Tesla is, right? A Tesla is continuously capturing data, information of the streets and the roads and the people crossing the streets and how the traffic works every day. It's about 40 terabytes of data every day that Tesla captures every time a car goes on the street. And with that, Tesla makes decisions. This is useful, this is not useful, this I'm going to throw away, and this I'm going to save for the future, right? Because it's continuously learning. That's how artificial intelligence learns. And that's why we want to make sure that students are autonomous learners using their biological intelligence. So what I'm going to discuss next is a 6-step framework that you can use to ensure that you're developing learning autonomy with your students every day. And with that, you're going to get the students ready and prepared to learn any tool, any new app, anything that they face in the future. Okay, so let's get started with what is learning autonomy. I ask you what the learning system is, you most likely have questions about it, right? Because we know how the digestive system works, we know how the circulatory system works, but we are not very clear how the learning system works. So let me explain to you. Every time we learn something new, it enters on our right frontal lobe. Then there's a neural network created, right? I'm giving you a lot of examples so you can remember that. And with the practice and practice and practice, that strengthens our synaptic connections, and that becomes a skill or habit. That's why you need to test a lot of prompts, and you need to make sure that you're, doing your work to ensure that it becomes a skill or habit. That's how the learning system works. So what we did is we created those 6 steps to ensure that we follow each of those steps of the learning system to eventually transform the content learned or the curriculum learned into a skill or a habit. So let's see how whenever we learn something new, any new knowledge that we provide to our students that excites them, their brains releases the right amount of dopamine and endorphins, which creates a strong bond among their brain's neurons, and they have learned something valuable to them. But on the other hand, when students are stressed out because they have the next exam, or they're bored, or something doesn't make sense to them, their brains release epinephrine, which is the fight or flight right here. And that's stressful, and then they disengaged. Okay, so AI's advantage is that it does not need dopamine to get excited about learning. It learns because it was programmed to do so. It is always hungry to learn. And that's what we want to make sure that we are transforming our students into, hungry to learn. So let me give you an example. So I got this student once that they were learning about the digestive system, right? This kid never liked biology. He liked cars very much. So one day he explained to me, okay, so the digestive system works like a car. The food is the gas, the engine is the stomach, and the oil and the exhauster. So what this student is doing is it's connecting the existing neurons in their brains to something new that they're learning. They'll never, ever forget that. So going back, the very first step that we have from the relational learning, right, is goal setting and planning. So it's adequate goal setting and planning, and you know what I'm talking about. Students are to be very specific when setting goals, to pick achievable and measurable metrics and plan precise tasks. And when they're doing that, they're developing all these skills: goal setting, planning, work effectiveness, decision-making, prioritization, responsibility, and accountability. So I'll give you an example of my nephew, Watson. He came to my house once and he said, let's have a list of things that I want to do today, because he was getting really frustrated. We never completed everything we wanted to do together. So he said, okay, we want to work out, we want to play a game, we want to watch a movie, we want to have a snack, we want to play a game again, and we want to read a book. We have to read a book because this is something that he always needs to do when he visits me. And then he prioritized that, the list. We're going to play one game, then we're going to work out, then we're going to have a snack, then we're going to play another game, then we're going to watch a movie, and then we're going to read. And for those, some of them, he put time, he associated time, 50 minutes, 1 hour, so on and so forth. And here the snack is like 5 animal cookies. So we had measurements for everything. If a 6-year-old can do this, can you imagine a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 15-year-old? They're capable of doing it. And the more they practice, which starts with practicing just for the day, they start planning their week, then they start planning their month, then they start planning their lives. I have tons of stories that I share in my book about students that have clear plans at the age of 12 on what they want in their lives, and they're working for it. So it's amazing to see how, after practicing step number 1 for so long, they can eventually do that. But Erika, how do we do this? Well, we do it using the curriculum, the existing curriculum. So instead of you planning for your students, the students are planning themselves. If you want to learn more, please read my book and you see a lot of examples there. Okay, step number 2 is explore. So this step is so simple and yet so powerful, and is one of the most significant differences between the average teacher and the effective teacher. Because it's when you're creating the connection of the existing neurons that students have in their heads to what they will learn. So encouraging students to explore helps them to connect previous knowledge to new knowledge, and it accelerates learning considerably. And every time that they're doing that, they're developing skills like meaning, finding meaning of what they're learning, finding value, finding purpose, being self-aware of what they know, exploring prior knowledge, and the discernment of what they will learn and what they already know. There's a study by Dr. Donald Hebb that says, that says cells that fire together, wire together. And that's all about the neurons. So every time that remember the digestive system with the car, cells that fire together, wire together. That child will never, ever forget how the digestive system works. And the reason why we do this is because when we start with the past knowledge, students are like seeds. So whatever they have inside them will grow, right? So that's why it's so important for us to start from them, from what they know, because then we'll create the right connection. And that's the meaning of the word education in Latin. That is to bring forth from within. It's from educare, to bring forth from within. So that's why it's so important, this step number 2. Well, moving on, we go to step number 3. So in this step, as a matter of fact, this is the favorite step of every single student I ask. And I said, what's the step that you like the most? Step number 3, research. They have the freedom to go after the information. And that's how artificial intelligence can be so powerful here. So that includes printed books, includes reports, audiobooks, videos, interviews, or even the rap that we created with using ChatGPT, right? And the more aligned the resources are with the students' interests, the more motivated they'll be to research. So researching information leads to the development of a personal knowledge base that can be then reflected in an organizational grid or a concept map that students create. And while they're doing this step, they're developing inquiry, critical thinking, reading comprehension, discernment, finding resources. So remember that the 3 most important skills that we must develop to make sure that students are prepared to use any AI system. Here's inquiry, here's the step that you make it happen. And the reason we do this, the reason why it's so important, is because when teachers have all the answers, it conditions students to always expect someone else to know things and to want an immediate solution for all their problems. So if conditioned in that way throughout the school years, remember, you need 10,000 hours to be an expert on anything, right? And students are 16,800 hours in school. If they're practicing every day to expect the teacher to have all the answers, they will expect that for the rest of their lives. Somebody else will have the answer, an employer, a family member, a government, right? And these expectations can make your students give up quickly when they believe that finding answers require too much work because their teacher is not there anymore, right? But when we use this step, when learners develop the research skills, they will get familiar with the inquiry process and enhancing critical thinking all the time and reading and comprehension and discernment and so on and so forth. And most of all, they discover that knowledge is out there for them to explore. Okay, then step number 4 is practice. So practice is the process of internalizing what was learned, right? In this step, you activate students' capacity to transform and to improve their prior knowledge on the second step, what they learn in the second set. So whenever we are using this step with students, we're developing creativity, collaboration, leadership, excellence, and project-based learning enters here in this step. So let me give you an example for you to understand how this works. We had this teacher once, Richard, science teacher, and it was during the pandemic, right? He shared this, how easy it is to disregard students' passion when you're teaching something, right? So he had 2 students, Laura and Julian, and in one unit of study, they have to learn how to be responsible with the environment while exploring agriculture. They live in a rural area. So Laura and Julian came up with a comic to explain the concepts they have learned. And they love, well, Julian loves the drawing and Laura loves telling stories. So they came up with this comic. It was great. So Richard was very, very impressed with the results with this practice. And of course, they did really well and they understood the concept. But they didn't stop there. They got some other kids around the neighborhood, created some costumes and played the costumes and sent the video to Richard. And Richard was crying when he saw that. So he told us the story and it was amazing to see when you empower students what they're capable of doing. So the next step is how it's relate. It's called relate. It's when students realize the real purpose and meaning of the unit by relating what they have learned to their own lives through activities or reflection. This is extremely important because you can repeat thousands and thousands of times your own definition of purpose and why learners need to learn this or that. But when they do that themselves, then it's the power of getting motivated to explore and to use what they have learned in their lives. And every time that you're working on this step, you're developing communication because they need to explain how they're going to use it in their lives, public speaking, finding relevance, problem solving, and applicability, all those skills. And it starts with a simple question, which is, how will I use what I learned? And that develops the intrinsic motivation necessary to find a connection between emotions and the reasoning of the brain and motivate those students to continue to learn. There was a student that I met once in one of my school visits, and Alan, his name, and he was sharing with his teacher how he related the concept of limits, math limits, to his life. And I said, no way this kid is going to connect limits to his life. And he said, well, it's very simple. I want to become a writer and I love literature. So I compare math limits to life limits. And he provided a whole explanation about so many authors that provided the same life limits and used math limits to explain it. It was absolutely amazing. I was so impressed. A teacher could never, ever get the student to explain such a thing if you weren't from within the student. Finally, self-assess. Whoa, self-assess. There's a very nice chapter in my book that I explain what self-assess is all about. And there's tons of stories that for you to understand there. But every time that we practice this with the students, we're developing metacognition. We're developing self-esteem because the students know what they are capable of. They can reflect on everything they have learned and the effort that they put in each step of the way, the effectiveness, their accountability, how excellent their job is, and perseverance. So all those skills are being developed while you're doing a self-assessment. And a child can learn to self-assess while in a safe of the school environment. And by allowing learners to choose a path and then experience the consequences of their choices, they'll become aware of the decisions that will impact their reality. So how do we do this? Very, very simple. First, metacognition, we ask questions. How did you do it? How much effort did you put in each of those steps? What were the skills that you developed? Then the learning process, assess the activities specific to that subject. Then practice, practice, practice to foster excellence. And finally, this is very important, we praise the progress in the process, not you're so intelligent, John. Congratulations, because that's the key for John to give up on putting any effort next time. So you got to make sure that we praise the process progress in the process. Which is the process? It's the process in each of the steps. How well did you grow here when you set your goals and plan? How well did you explore? What is the sources of your research, practice, relate, and self-assess? And can you see here that now we're making sure that we're working with the development of the biological intelligence instead of focusing on, oh my God, what is the AI generating? What is the students learning if AI is doing everything? Here we have a chance to develop all the skills and make humans more humans, make humans capable of ensuring that they have the necessary skills to work with any AI they want. And you saw here also that those 6 steps develop personalized learning because it's personalized, it's project-based learning, because you can work in a project, as I gave you many examples. Autonomous learning, right? Students become every time independent. Competency-based learning, because we develop so many skills, and inquiry learning, so important, inquiry learning. It's a main skill to ensure that students can work with AI. Now, I want to share something with you, which is a personal vision of the education of the future, and education with AI. Imagine this with me, okay? Imagine that we have middle school students working on a project, and they want to diminish the use of plastics in the world, right? So they research the subjects for a couple of weeks and refine their prompts, and they're using AI tools. And they're brainstorming using Microsoft Copilot. And the Copilot is listening to everything that they're discussing, right? So then students ask the Copilot to find potential investors on LinkedIn. And then with the very, very big probability that those investors will invest in their idea, right? And then they ask PowerPoint to design, they ask DALL-E to design a presentation and images that they can use in a PowerPoint presentation that will resonate with those investors based on whatever papers they developed with their idea. Now, imagine that the plastic-less solution is to create an app. They want to demonstrate the prototype to the potential investors. So they ask ChatGPT to write a code, and they cut and paste that code into GitHub, and voila, they have an app to demo. Now, these students never went to college to become experts on environmental cleaning, and they have never met investors before. And they have no experience on developing presentation designs or code, nothing of that. But one thing they know is to ask questions or to create the prompts. So with this example, you can imagine how education will be in the future. And that's why I say that biological intelligence and working with artificial intelligence give us an augmented intelligence. So this is very important for you to understand. ChatGPT will never create a company, will never create the next idea, but will help our students and will help you to be more productive and to do unimaginable things that we haven't seen before. So it's not all about just learning about Shakespeare or learning about math or biology anymore. It's to put all of this together, ask the right questions, and transform the world that we live in. Can you see the power? Can you see the unimaginable things that we can do with our students in the near future if we use AI correctly? Now, I want to conclude with a story. This guy here, George Danzig, he invented the linear programming. If you're not familiar with him, he created the linear programming allows aviation industry to schedule crews and jets, separate different grades of gas, and so on. It's extremely powerful. He's a mathematician. So when he was young and beautiful, right, he got late to this statistics class just in time to write down 2 homework problems shared on a blackboard. So those problems are quite difficult. It took him 2 weeks to get them solved. And he rushed to the professor so sorry, professor, I'm so sorry I'm late with my homework. Here are the 2 problems solved. And the professor was astonished because those 2 problems were impossible to be solved. So his problem solving was so impactful that Danzig did not have to present a final dissertation for his doctorate. He was done because he solved impossible problems. Your students don't know what is impossible. And I hope you keep it secret, like the professor for George Danzig did in the past. So Mark Twain said that in one of his stories, in one of his books, I said they did not know it was impossible, so they went ahead and did it. So let's make sure that we're developing those skills with our students to believe that there's no impossible and that everything can be solved. And that's where we're creating the next generation to solve the problems of the world that we have today. And your legacy is what constitutes you, and you are an educator. There's a McKinsey research that says most school systems struggle to turn improvements into action at scale, right? It also says that it is not enough for leaders to know what interventions to use, but make changes stick. It also requires understand how to implement them well at scale. So what you saw here today is a 6-step that can be scalable. That's the whole point of those 6 steps, is to ensure that we have one single process that is scalable. That's why it's so important for you to understand. Now, you have 2 choices. The first choice is do absolutely nothing. Leave the presentation saying, that was good. I like the message. That was fun. Thank you very much. And the second option is take action now. Because if you take action now, AI evolves so fast. You are making sure that you have the right experience to work with your students. And my question to you now is, shall we get to work? I leave here my contact information, email. If you want to sign up for my newsletter on the website, there is a bot that I created called Teddy's that is very fun. You can develop units of study using the 6 steps and get your Becoming Einstein's Teacher copy at Amazon or any other bookstore that you want. Okay, so thank you very much. I pass the word back to the Kinich School team.
Thank you, Erika. What a wonderful presentation. I am now super excited and just thinking on how to use this. It actually is empowering information. Before we pass to the dialogue section of this session, I would like to ask to the public if there is any question for Erika before we start with the questions to start the dialogue. Someone sent me a message asking if they could maybe do the question in Spanish because there are some people in the audience who doesn't feel comfortable talking English. I encourage them to do, and we can translate them to the people who doesn't speak Spanish. So if there is any question, this is a moment.
In the meantime, I'm going to show you something really cool here, which is Teddy's, the bot that creates units of study. If you have the ChatGPT version subscription, you can use this. For instance, create a story, a history unit of study for 9th graders about ancient Egypt using the 6 stages of learning. So here Teddy's creating the very 6 steps that I just showed you and having all those skills developed. Look at that. So teachers can grab this information here, the suggestions, and use this first creation here to adjust and make sure that you personalize this to your students. And you don't have to spend 3-4 hours anymore doing this because ChatGPT is doing that for you. So it gives you activities, gives you activities for self-assessment, so on and so forth. And now I can go even further and say, personalize Personalize this unit to a boy that likes soccer. And then they'll suggest some activities to ensure that soccer is involved in all these activities. So those are the things that ChatGPT can help you with. Drawing parallels between the sport and the aspects of Egyptian society, culture, and achievements. Look at that. Bam. Does the teacher need to be specialized in sports? Nope. Does the teacher need to understand how the game is played? Absolutely not, because you already have here activities related to soccer, and I'm positive that your student that loves soccer will love this unit. Look at how simple it is. But Erika, I have my unit ready. I didn't ask the bot to develop. Well, upload it here and ask the same thing to personalize for a student that likes soccer. And ChatGPT will do that for you. That's productivity.
When I saw this working before we planned this session, when we were talking to you, I saw this and I just felt like I had wasted a third of my life doing lesson planning. And now ChatGPT is just a wonderful tool to enhance our performance as professors and teachers.
Absolutely.
Before we pass to the dialogue section, I saw there was no questions in the public. Someone? Nope. Any question?
I have a question.
Thank you.
Erika, you have been talking like somehow reasons why the use of artificial intelligence it helps the students thrive and learn and do better at school. However, I am also a professor at a university in Monterrey, and there is this huge debate with among professors. It's crazy about how much they worry about the use of AI or ChatGPT, especially with students. So they're really upset every time you ask for an essay because they feel like the essay has been done through ChatGPT. And well, basically my question is, like, I never get into the debate because I do understand the positive area behind the use of it, and that we should support our students in learning other skills aside from student essay writing and things like that. So basically my question is, what could be an argument for professors to encourage this as an other skill to support our students?
That's a great question. And remember after we did the demo, there's a lot of questions that we put out there. And of course, I mean, if the end result of learning is to write an essay, I mean, come on, students will just use ChatGPT to do the homework. They don't want to do that. This is not something that is pleasant to do, right? They know they have to understand the concept, but write an essay, really? So what I would recommend is to use the example I gave at the end of the possibilities that AI can help students to advance in their knowledge, put their ideas to work. At the end of the day, why do you go to an engineering course at the university? Well, because I want to be an engineer. Really? You want to be an engineer, or you want to build the most beautiful buildings in the world? Do you want to be a biologist, or you want to, or a doctor, or you want to save lives? What do you really want to do? And that's the reason why you're going to school, right? That's the reason why you're going to university. But if you shift the purpose of going to university, going to college, to something that is more meaningful, which is the end result that we want, things are a lot different. Why kids go to school? Well, because they have this brilliant idea of eliminating plastic in the oceans of the world, and they want to learn how to do that. Well, you can do that right now. You don't need to be any specialist. You can do that right now. So you can give these examples like this of the possibilities, because we're so used to how students learn and how colleges function and how education is for, that we forget about the possibilities behind it. And what we have to do is to shift to the end result that we want. And then you can attach the necessary tools to make it happen.
Thank you very much, Erika. Brian, you are raising your hand.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I have a question. As a teacher, I have a preoccupation about how controlled are the answers in ChatGPT or in other artificial intelligence, because I want my students to be able to contrast sites and develop its own criteria about, let's say, a certain topic. For example, if we talk about the independence of Mexico, we have like the conservative visions and the liberal visions. So my question is, can AI could have biased responses?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Brian. AI could be very crazy. Let's put it this way with the answers. That's why critical thinking is so important, to ensure that we are developing critical thinking with our students all the time. And what you propose is very useful, how to contrast and compare what answers you're getting from ChatGPT. That's extremely important, because that will allow them to research and make a decision whether this answer is good or not, and whether this answer is credible or not.
So it would be like really helpful for me as a teacher to first have like this conversation with my students, like not to lay only on ChatGPT, but to have this critical thinking about other kinds of visions in everything, in every topic, right?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Yes.
Thank you
That's
so
critical
much.
thinking.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for the question. Samuel, you wanted to participate as well?
Hi, hi everyone. And yes, I'm gonna share something about my point of view. Thanks for Erika for guide us with it with this topic. It's very important. And actually, just to answer or to complement the answer about the question, the teacher from Monterrey. Maybe one thing we can do as a teachers. Well, I'm talking about the university, and maybe the teachers want contrast and a screenshot with ChatGPT and to compare both one and an essay make it by the own students versus the ChatGPT or other AI tool. Because you can start to compare. The other thing, you can start to. I don't have the ChatGPT Plus or ChatGPT 4, but I heard that the ChatGPT 4 had a tool to can help you to contrast the essays, for example, and try to make a lookup. Try to search and look their essays, and you can find if the some essay it's made by a ChatGPT or the other tool, or it's made by a human person, and that's very important because well, every now here we are talking about ChatGPT, but there are other tools, and there are more. There are some usuals, and I believe when I as a teacher in the middle school, I work with teenagers. In Mexico, it's called bachillerato, and it's the same thing about the say Erika, because we have a same thing and between the gaps between the technological change about it. And as you say, Erika, and I like it, because if you wanna a college student, if you want to make the beautiful buildings, make a difference as a professional, you have to be honest and try to make your best. And that's the reason, because we start in the beginning from this era, and I'm close to 40 years old, and I make a comparison when I was a kid, and I start to learn and work in computers, and I didn't know many things that I know here right now. But for example, Excel, Microsoft Excel, it's a huge tool for many things, and as a teacher, and PowerPoint, Excel, and it worked, and it did make it, but maybe in the 90s, and right now there are huge and impressive tools, and I watched that the technology are very useful. And I see ChatGPT on the other AI tools like that. And maybe it's the beginning for a new era about education, learning, like we are right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Samuel. Thank you so much for sharing that. The education as it is, as we know, has over 200 years, and it hasn't changed. Now we finally are reinforced to change it, whether we want it or not. It's great. And I put here a resource that you can use called gpt0.com in the chat. This compares essays and papers and all of that, and you can use that to see whether that was generated by AI or not. So it's a very useful tool.
Thank you, Erika. Now, Englex Alan from Ramsarispe wanted to ask something.
Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm right now at my school, and I'm gonna have a class. So I'm gonna try to make a quick opinion on this. So for me, it's different, a little bit different than the other teachers are talking, because I have an after school school of English, and so we're changing their minds. So because in my school the students are not working for a grade or for a score. So but you in universities or in high schools, so all the students are aware of what score can I get this semester. So I just want to pass the semester, and so that's because they go and use ChatGPT in not a very good way. So I think we have a lot of work on awareness of changing their mind to work in a different way. What Erika said in a few minutes ago, she said that all the students are just working, well, as I said, for a score. So maybe awareness of that can make the difference, you know. So for example, when I used to work in high school, so I prefer to work with through projects instead of tests. Maybe changing these changes are not very possible right now because of the Mexican educational system is like now allowing this. but we can work it into the classroom. So just try to aware the students with this question that came to my mind now. This question that Erika said: do you want to be? Would you like to be just a doctor? Would you like to save lives? So these questions make the difference. So in changing the way they think. Well, that is my opinion.
Thank you, Alan. Ryan, you're raising your hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was my last question.
That's all right. Thank you very much for the participations, the opinions, the questions. I want to thank Erika for this wonderful presentation. It was very insightful. And I want to add the public a few questions to start a little bit of a conversation. We still have a few minutes left. And I was thinking as you were exposing, like when you were telling the Tesla example, how Tesla is just taking data from everywhere, like the lights, the speed, the people, like everything about the streets and how to make a car autonomous to go and move around. And I wanted to ask the professors and the teachers who join us, who are joining us today, what type of information is the data that we are taking every day to improve our classes? What type of data we have available? And if we are able to identify what type of things we can observe to improve and enhance our performance as teachers. I don't know if someone in the public would like to share something on this.
Can you please repeat the question, Alejandra?
Yes, what type of information we have available to collect in our classroom in order to improve our classes? Yes, Samuel?
Well, in my case, in the experience, I started to use ChatGPT and 3.5. I use it when I have enough internet. I use it to consult, to research and make an investigation about the topics. When I have my schedule, I start to search and find out some answers and different ideas to improve my classes. But well, I use ChatGPT, but I start to see that Facebook Messenger had an AI generator, artificial intelligence, and as WhatsApp has the same tool. And this is very important for me because here in Latin America, there are ChatGPT is so popular, but with the college degrees and with the teenagers, WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger, that is so popular. And I start to see the many kids start to they don't use even when you leave homework. They don't make a very prolific search. Just try to search the simplest answers to the questions or the task for the homeworks, and they don't investigate. They don't make a prolific research. They don't just keep to the basic. And I'm afraid that that's the same thing about it with the kids. They don't even when they have huge tools to even free tools to find answers and solve the homework. Many kids they don't like to investigate about it, and I see they follow and they find the easiest answer. And I'm afraid about it with WhatsApp and Facebook. They had the artificial intelligence, and they start to move on with the cheapest, not even the cheapest, the the pretty easy answer. And this is well, for me, because I'm getting old. And when I was a kid, I went to the library. I start to find, to search the books and other things. And right now, we go to the library, we get books, and you have the internet and start to investigate with the computer in the public libraries. But the kids right now, in my perspective, I don't know everyone, but I start to see that phenomenon, that issue, and that worries me in some cases. But that's just my point of view. I go to research and make the investigation about one topic, and guide, and I have all the topic. I make my schedule with my classes. But later I see this. But this is my point of view.
Thank you, Samuel, for sharing. Kimani?
Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Kimani. I'm here in San Antonio. Thank you for this, Erika and Kinich School. Super interesting. I was thinking about your question, Ale, and Erika's additional prompt to ChatGPT about like tailor this to the student who is interested in soccer. And so like that is data that we have to gather from our students. Because while ChatGPT is super helpful, I'm already thinking of different ways. I'm an assistant principal, so I support and coach English teachers, English literature teachers at my school. And I'm already thinking of a bunch of ways I want to try out tonight so that I can show them tomorrow, ways we can be using ChatGPT. But I'm thinking about some of the fears expressed around AI and how you say like, AI is not going to replace teachers. It's not going to start a business. It's a robot. Like teachers need to still develop the relationships with students to then know how to tailor the curriculum that AI helps them create. Teachers still need to, collect data in their classrooms on where students are in their learning so that they can use AI more effectively. AI isn't in the room with you to know, okay, I need to change this for tomorrow. Let me go to ChatGPT. You can use it as a tool, but the teacher still has to be the one doing that observational data, the quantitative work where they testing on these skills and on this knowledge. And you have more brain space to do that when you use ChatGPT. So I'm really excited about this. Thank you all.
Precisely. Thank you, Kimani. Brian, is it you want to participate or you left your hand up again?
No, I have an opinion about your question.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
So I think like it's really, really important for us as a teachers that we gather all the information that we can have in the room. For example, the level of energy of my kids, their emotions, if they are happy, if they are sad, or even if they are worried about something, their social skills, the way they are relating with their colleagues, their levels of concentrations. I mean, in my class, I can perceive all of that, even if they had breakfast or not, and I think we as a teachers can use all of this data because it's really important as we can adapt the class according to all of this information. And it's something that we can, or maybe all of us do as a daily basis in our classrooms. So I think the information is out there and we can collect it to make better decisions in our classrooms.
Thank you, Brian. And I wonder if the teacher of the future will have to develop this skill about how to properly bring the information to AI to have better classes instead of just learning the tools themselves to better use the tools. Another question, just to finish the session now, because we are almost out of time. And this question actually is a question that Erika have in her presentation. And now I want to ask you as teachers before we leave is, how will you use what you learned today? I don't know if 2 or 3 teachers want to share how this will be useful in your daily classes.
So I have, in my opinion, so I couldn't find the button to raise my hand again, so I don't know why. But well, so my the way I'm gonna use this this tool is one point is what you shared into my class plans. So I will use it to make a very specific very specific plan for my classes, and also in my students. So maybe to practice their English. I mean, sometimes we struggle with more with writing skills or maybe speaking, but because you can get this in a written way, so they can use this what they have found in ChatGPT to maybe perform something during the class, or maybe a special project, but where I can see just the way they speak. So this is in the case of English.
Thank you. There's some comments in the chat. Kimani says, I am going to use it tonight and see how ChatGPT can help us come up with guiding questions for students who are having a difficulty identifying theme in poetry. Oh, wow, that's super interesting. Use the 6 steps and practice. Thank you, Eric. And there's some people giving also very, for example, Carlos Guerra says, I think that API credentials of NASA are free for educators. There is a nice database of objects near to Earth or spatial garbage for free. Useful to teach SQL and physics, or even make orbital calculations and advanced fun algebras. Wow, that's very useful. Okay, well, if there's no another comment, I'll pass the mic to Eric to close the session today. I highly encourage everyone. This was a wonderful session. Invite more teachers for the session next week, because we will have also a great guest, and Eric will tell you about it. Eric.
Thank you, Ale. Thank you. Thanks a lot for everybody to be here. Erika, thank you for participating here. I believe that to use ChatGPT and to use artificial intelligence, something important is to take in consideration is like you have to repeat and repeat and repeat. Really, is not a solution that just one time and you figure out exactly how does it work. In other words, you have to try like different prompts. You have to try like different ways to really get different answers. As Erika was mentioning, it's something that the prompt becomes very important, but also the seeing how teachers are using it, seeing how other people are practicing with it, I think that becomes very important. And this topic is very interesting, and we are gonna also have another person coming next week. He's more into another tool. It's not ChatGPT. In that way, we're gonna explore another tool that also promotes artificial intelligence. And he's an amazing guy, David. I have been working with him in different things and supporting Harvard Education to really think differently and how to use all the information that is collectively created and how to use it to really push the students also to learn in different ways and push the teachers also to think in different ways. In that way, we are going to meet again next week, same time on Thursday. We're going to have this session again with David. Thanks a lot, Erika, for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.